Today we're joined by Dan Trachtenberg, director of Predator: Badlands, Killer of Killers, Prey, 10 Cloverfield Lane, and so much more. Let's break down his upcoming film.
What's up, dude?
What's up, pal?
Why are you guys so far apart?
We're in different. If he's in Hollywood, I'm in Highland Park.
I see.
Yeah.
You're sick of each other.
basically, you know how it is. Come on.
I do. I worked with my brother on this movie. I know exactly how it is.
Oh, it's amazing. What did your brother do in the film?
He was one of the two editors.
Okay, cool.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Has he always edited film with you in your movies?
No, he cut the pilot. He did a lot of the commercials that I worked on when I was cutting my teeth. And he started out in commercials as well. And then on Cloverfield Lane, he was editing a movie called Me and Earl and the Dying Girl. And then we did the Boys pilot together. And now this is our first time actually working on a movie together.
That's amazing to have someone you can trust on the edit.
Totally. It's a huge part of it.
Yeah, I mean, having a brother as a business partner is amazing, as a creative partner as well. You know, it's so fun. You can always trust them completely. You bicker a lot, but, you know, I love having you.
I trust you, man.
Now,
Now let's get into this episode. I mean, you have one of the biggest movies coming out this year, Predator: Badlands. Congratulations on the film. We've seen a little bit. We're going to see the rest of it this weekend. But we are huge fans of the Predator franchise. We have older brothers, and they're 80s kids, so they would show us the Predator movies when we were growing up. So this franchise has been with us for a long time. Has it been the same for you? Do you remember the first time you watched Predator, and what's it like having this movie finally coming out?
It's, first of all, let me just say, it's that I didn't realize the older brothers, and when I look at you guys and when I watch you guys, and you're so much younger, yet your set of references are so much more from my generation, and and I wondered, I was like, wow, that's so. I love you guys really went out of your way to like find the cool movies, and now you've just basically underlined the real reason, which is older brother. You had a cool older brother that was like showing you the good stuff.
Four of them. We had four older brothers.
Oh,
so
you had four of them.
80s.
Oh, yeah. That makes
so many.
Even more sense.
So many R-rated movies when we were 5 years old, watching in the basement. Trips to Blockbuster. We saw everything. Stallone movies, Schwarzenegger, R movies, Blade. I mean, we saw so much when we were kids, and that's why we love the classic action 80s movies.
Yeah, so I even though I was the youngest of four, my parents were really strict and did not let me see R-rated movies, and so Predator was something that I first discovered from a bunch of older kids in a carpool on the way to a karate tournament. Like, had all seen Predator and would describe the whole thing word for word to me. And then when I eventually saw it, I was probably like 10 years old. My mind was totally blown. I had never seen a movie that started out in one genre and became another. That was more than the stuff in the movie. Although, of course, I could not believe the violence that I was seeing. But really, it was the like way that it functioned, the format of it, particularly imprinted on me. As well as that creature, I was expecting to be scared. I thought it was going to be like Jason or Freddy or Michael Myers, but it wasn't. It was cool. It was badass. And that's sort of led me down this path that ends here in Badlands. I would not have thought to make a movie like Badlands with any other, modern movie monster like Freddy or Jason. This is because that the Predator almost served like an action nemesis than it did a horror character in my mind.
Well, staying on structure for a minute. So, like that first Predator film, The Structure, it's like this cool, campy war film, lots of horror elements and this straight up action. And with the structure for Predator Badlands, I read that you took a ton of inspiration from Terminator 2. You got to chat with James Cameron. Can you talk about the influence from Terminator 2, what you put and took from that for Predator Badlands?
Oh, well, just the notion of um, not just Terminator 2 obviously takes a the bad guy from the first movie and then makes him the hero of the second. Um, but it's also that Terminator 2 is one of the most iconic action movies in movie history. But it's also one of the warmest. You know, it's also one of the most emotional. Um, when you think of one of the most iconic lines in all of movies, in all of action cinema, "Hasta la vista, baby," that comes from a scene where a robot is bonding with a teenage boy. Um, so I love that in the framework of something that is ferocious and badass, you can also have heart, and be surprising. You know, I remember when I saw Terminator, I loved it. When I saw Terminator 2, I like asked my mom to watch it. I was like, I think you're gonna like this movie. She wouldn't watch any movie that I watched. You know, she would never watch any of the action movies. But T2 was like, you might actually like this, and she did because it's thematically oriented and is this movie about parents and children and mothers and sons, fathers and sons. Um, so I feel like what that means is you can make a great action movie, sure, but how about go for like great movie, you know? Um, and so all of that is really what fueled me to make Badlands,
That's
and really
amazing.
tried to like stay away from. Sorry to interrupt, but really tried away from. I knew if we put any humans in the movie, it would become too much like T2. It would become the human story, and the predator is the sidekick to them, and that's why I tried to invert it as best I could. And this time, the predator really truly is a protagonist, and his buddy is a robot, is a half destroyed robot.
And since your predator is now the protagonist of the story that you created, can you break down who is Deck? What is he and his family and his origins and the culture you put into this film? Can you break down who this character is and what fans can expect to see from him in this movie?
So Deck comes from a very brutal Spartan-like clan, that believe any weak link will break a chain. And Deck is the runt of the litter, in size and stature, and ability, um, and without saying too much, he finds himself exiled from the clan and crashed into one of the most deadly planets, known as the Death Planet, Genna the Death Planet, in all the galaxy, and on there lives this legendarily unkillable creature. And so Deck has to hunt down and kill the unkillable to prove his worth. And you're seeing a monster in the Predator, fight things and take on an entire planet that are, even more deadly and scary and more enormous than he.
And I don't know about you two, but I am always rooting for the monster in specific movies. Sometimes I love when the baddie wins or the villain wins. And
Yeah.
Predator's always been a villain. He's always been a bad guy. And so, what were the goals of making him a protagonist, as well as what are the obstacles and hurdles you have to overcome for decades of a villain to turn them into an empathetic hero that people can really connect with?
Well, I didn't want to just make a Predator movie, just make a slasher movie, and the bad guy wins in the end, and the Predator wins. So everything you just saw was a Predator movie, but this time he wins. Um, that 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 felt like that was not a recipe for an awesome movie. It'd be like a fun little shorter Predator story, but not an awesome movie. Um, so really, the thought was, oh, what if I put the Predator on the same journey that Dutch went through, that the human typically goes through? That's a thing that we've never seen in the Predator franchise. That's a thing that we've never seen in science fiction. So the challenges with that, however, are the thing we've all loved from the original Predator is that it's a practical suit. Is it's a man in a suit, crafted and in the by the great Stan Winston, and yet it had to emote and have an emotional range that would draw people in to connect with it on this crazy journey we were going to do in Badlands. Um, so we ended up we tried doing a full prosthetic, and working with Alec Gillis, who was right there in the beginning, working under Stan Winston on Predator in
Wow.
'87. I collaborated with him on Prey and Killer of Killers at the design in the designs of all of our Predators, and on this one too. Um, and he turned to me and said, "I this isn't going to do what I know what you want to do, and this isn't going to do it." So he went down to Weta Workshop in New Zealand and worked with the new blood. Alec is the OG. They are the new G. They were, they worked in all the Lord of the Rings movies, um, and we made a really awesome full prosthetic suit for all of the Yautja in the movie, and for Deck as well. We just left an open cowl, so just from forehead to chin was open, and Demetrius gave a tremendously powerful performance that then a bunch of VFX artists had to figure out how to translate that performance to the face of a Predator. If you think about all of our favorite CG characters, from Gollum to like an ape, Planet of the Apes, those are all very humanoid faces. Um, so, the Predator has mandibles, no lips, teeth that won't let his mouth close. Very, very, very challenging to figure out how to translate what Demetrius was doing onto that face. But thankfully, the incredible folks over at Weta and ILM, and there was this place ILP, that frame store really great VFX houses, and we cracked the code, and now there's people that assume that we had done a full prosthetic build, and really just it gets to be like T2 was, having this adventure of state of the art VFX, kick ass action, and a really unexpected story.
It's incredible because when you watch the language being spoken by Demetrius and the other actors, the way the mandibles are moving, the way like their cheeks reverberate, and you worked with the person who made the language for Avatar, is that correct? And can you break down the process
He's
of
a
it?
mentor.
Gotcha.
Avatar guy was busy.
Mm.
So he gave us a name, this guy Britton Watkins, and who's also a linguist like Avatar guy. And he developed this whole thing from the ground up. There really wasn't much to go on from any of the previous films. He did the written language too. The runes in the first movie were just there to look cool. They didn't really make any sense. So he made some sense of it all and developed the language around the actual like physiology of the Predator's like throat and mouth shape. So based off, we've always heard the roar and the clicks and the trill the
And
Predator's
the
made
laugh.
before, and the laugh, of course, mimicking its prey. So well done, well done.
Well, technically, the laugh is a replication of Billy, if you think about it. At the end of the day, so
it is. It is.
Yeah,
It is, absolutely.
yeah.
So yeah, a language from the ground up that Demetrius and Elle occasionally, but Demetrius had to learn and perform. We would give him new screenplay pages on a morning, and ask him to do it sometimes in English and then sometimes in Yautja. He'd have to learn the Yautja that morning and not just deliver it, but deliver it with intensity. And he was incredible.
Back to Weta and ILM, huge fans of both of them. They're incredible. And the practical stuff. I saw the press has been great. You guys have been doing a great time marketing. The video of you and Elle, well, you're in the background with a fan. Elle's doing the share, like lip sync. Then the Yautja's behind her. singing the rap verse. So that's a practical face though, a bit, and it kind of works, right? Or what was that? Was that CGI?
CG. That was
Wow.
us calling in a favor um, from these guys we call the Mario Brothers that did a lot of like post viz on the movie, a very
Yeah.
unsung craftsmanship. They do VFX as like placeholder, so we have something to look at that then gets replaced by all the other VFX houses. So that art is like so instrumental in making the movie great, and it's very unsung. But these guys did that face in 2 days.
That's
Amazing.
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 Yeah,
I thought it
yeah,
was
yeah.
real because it's like the quality of an iPhone. It made it,
Right.
it sold it even more, you know?
Wow.
Yeah.
I'll send you the video later. It's really funny because the marketing campaign's ramping up. How's the press going? How's that whole process of touring the world? Saw you guys premiere in London, right? About a week ago, and then you're just in LA
Yeah.
this week.
Yeah, we were in London, then Berlin, and now I'm home in my hometown in Philadelphia, and I'm gonna soon talk to. I went to Temple University to film school there, and after we do this, I'm gonna run over there and talk to some of the film students that saw the movie last night in IMAX at our local theater, and it's awesome. It's awesome.
Hell yeah, man.
And were you at IMAX headquarters on Tuesday, I believe?
Okay.
We couldn't go there. We had a job, so we couldn't attend that screening. Otherwise, it would have been fun to see it. But
Oh,
so
you're saying we were playing the movie there too. Yeah, I literally went from there to the airport.
Yeah.
So
Bounced around.
That's such a great theater. I love that theater
great
so much.
theater.
We brought that up at the 20-minute opening. That was a great like press thing that they did Disney at the studio with all the creators and that round table. That was the funnest press activity content creation thing I've ever done.
interesting. Well, they're listening right now. That is good.
It really was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that you guys kind of it's fun to have camaraderie with people that they're not other people on your specific show, but they're doing the same thing that you are doing, and you guys all kind of can relate to each other. I guess there's things like VidCon, maybe, I don't know, or at Comic Con. I used
Never
to
been
see
to
other
those.
We've never been there, but yeah, it's a nice community. It's a nice little
Yeah.
community of people who love cinema and love movies.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to see Elle Fanning in this film. I think she's one of the most fascinating actors of her generation, and she's building out such a crazy career. Can you break down getting her on this film? And she plays two roles in this film, Tessa and Tia. Can you talk about
Thea and Tessa? Yeah.
Thea and Tessa? Can you break down her process, what it was like creating two characters, and how she made them different, and what acting with her was like?
Yeah, I feel so lucky that she said yes to the movie. I think she has incredibly good taste. And she's never done a big movie quite like this and has avoided all the larger franchises. And I had a feeling like if we're going to go to this kind of movie with this kind of role, that this might be the one she choose. And thankfully she did, just because it is so distinct and weird and cool. And I think her choosing us makes us cool. And yeah, it's a wild role that she had to, she had to let go of the ability to use a whole part of her, forgive the cheesy term, but instrument, quote unquote. She was really tied to Demetrius's back for most of the movie as Thea. And blocking a scene was like, well, you're on his back, there was no it's a whole part of the process of like making something dynamic. I had to find a lot of ways to get her off the back sometimes and figure out how that was going to work. And she was suspended by wires in the middle of New Zealand. We shot the movie mostly on location, and there was wires. There was a wheelbarrow rig where her legs would be like in the sled of the wheelbarrow, and Demetrius would have to be hauling the weight of that amongst doing everything else he was doing. And one day we were doing a scene, and we had just done a bunch of improv. I really love improvising. And Elle really embraced that, um, and she was there was a beat where he had to lift her up off the ground and onto his back, and that was going to take several shots to visually articulate because of all the rigs and everything. And she was like, came over and she's like, Dan, I know you love doing stuff practically. Like, what if we do this all in one shot? Like I can just like carry my body and let the top of myself hang, um, and then we can walk back to back, and I feel like I can pull it off. And I was like, let's give it a shot. If it doesn't work, we'll do the rest of what we planned. And it not only did it worked better than it had with any of the rigs. And the only bummer was that it was like the last week of shooting after we had done all the crazy stuff. And Demetrius was like, you couldn't have figured this out, like, a week, 3 weeks ago. So yeah, it was great. And her other role in the movie as Tessa is very, very, very different from she plays the comedic sidekick in some regards, though certainly much more there than that. And someone far more intense. Some ways that made it helpful, we sort of knew which character we were doing. They were very different from one another. As twins, I'd be curious to see your guys' reaction to that role in particular. How did you guys feel watching? It's very different from what I'm about to bring up, but since it was this past year, but Sinners, I probably could watch. I'm sure you guys reviewed.
Oh, that was a great twin movie.
We did a great. We reviewed it right after it came out. I love twin movies, especially when there's one actor doing two roles, because I love to see what this one person brings to each version. And Smoke and Stack, differences in terms of like their posture, the way they stood, and Michael B. Jordan, I think it's his best performance in his career. So I think as a twin, I'm always picking out those little idiosyncrasies, because sometimes when you see real twins on camera, they're so identical, there's nothing different about them. But when like Anthony and I are pretty different we love so much of the same stuff, but we have very different sense of style, and our haircuts are different, so we have big differences between us. But sometimes I think Hollywood overdoes it in terms of they have to do everything the same, finish each other's sentences. But Smoke and Stack, Red and Blue, the aesthetic itself, I love the differences between them.
Yeah, they did a fantastic job.
Yeah. I was gonna say, what I thought was so great about that was actually they were so subtly different that sometimes people go for big contrast, or identical, and thought it was interesting that they really went with like the way you and Anthony, like very different. The way you hold yourselves can be a little different, as opposed to some of the more broader concepts. But anyway, but Thea and Tessa different in very different ways, yet having the same origin is very much what drives the story between them and Deck.
Logistically, when you're scheduling with her, are you making sure she's not playing both roles in one day? Because movies shoot out of order, and sometimes you're constrained by location or availability. Did you purposely? Because if I was going to do it, I'd be like, I don't want her playing both roles on one day, to help her with her performance, to be able to focus on one per day of shooting.
It's for that reason, but it's also for the makeup changes.
Gotcha.
Because it'll eat out a whole chunk of time to have to switch. You try to have things out so that any makeup changes, you're like shooting a scene with another actor while you do that, and then there's time for this. Or we try to do one day is and then they come in the next day, go through hair and makeup for the other character, Tessa, so that you don't lose any time to any of the costume or makeup changeover.
Yeah, Anthony and I, we've been learning so much about filmmaking because we've been making short films. We've done 3 in the last year and a half. And so, like, we start to understand, like, the logistics of getting someone on set, and then the makeup and how long every little thing just eats into your schedule every single day. And I'd love to talk more about your career in general in terms of, like, starting with your debut feature with 10 Cloverfield Lane, which is such an awesome first film, first of all. Not talked about enough, but I think it has a big cult following. I think a lot of cinephiles love that film, especially coming off the Cloverfield film, which was such a huge hit when it came out. And then doing the pilot for The Boys, I didn't know that until a couple weeks ago because we were at an Apple TV event. We met someone. We were talking about how we were going to chat with you. Like, oh, we had him at Amazon for the pilot for The Boys. I'm like, I didn't know he did The Boys first episode. And then coming out with you did a Black Mirror episode.
Yep.
And then your big budget stuff like Prey and then Predator now. So what's the process like? In addition to doing other shorts, you're on a smaller, more singular location film like 10 Cloverfield, but now you're expanding into bigger shows, and now you're just doing the biggest blockbuster stuff really possible.
I mean, funny enough, The Boys was one of the bigger budget things that that we had per minute. It actually was pretty comfortable, but it's all the same. Here's the real thing of it, guys. I'm the same I was as a kid with my friends and the action figures and the video camera. Like you're trying to get people excited about what they're going to do. You have something in your heart and your mind of what it wants to be like. You're communicating that to everyone. I kept on thinking some special thing was going to happen to me, and then I'd be like, and I'm a director now. I was going to get some special knowledge. But it really is just based on how you communicate to your fellow people in life. I along the way, did the whole podcasting thing many years ago. And I did it with a couple of actors. And I probably got more out of that experience that was helpful for my career as a director than I did necessarily directing some of the commercials that I had done or the short films that I had done, because they were really gifted. It's one thing to have feelings. It's another thing to be able to express them in a way that really lands with people. And incites the right kind of thing in them to do what you're asking for. And guys who are used to being in front of the camera and being able to express themselves really gave a lot to me. And you guys doing this right now and honing in the ability to express how you feel about media is monumental to, if you want to get into filmmaking yourselves, to doing that. And you won't feel differently. It isn't suddenly now you're this person. So me talking to any actor on the commercial I had done, to then talking to Mary Elizabeth Winstead or John Goodman, or there's an intimidation factor that you have to get over, but the kind of things that you're saying to them are just the same. And yeah.
It's amazing, man. Love it. What was your journey to this IP and this property? Was 20th Century Studios and Disney, were they looking and putting out feelers like, hey, we want a new adaptation, we're looking for pitches, and then did you send them a pitch? How did you get into this property? How'd it go?
The opposite. So I was trying to figure out my next movie. I had done Cloverfield Lane. I had done The Boys, and I was flirting. I was like on the Uncharted movie for a little bit, and I was reading scripts, and I wasn't really soul searching for what, like, not just like what's coming my way, but like what do I want to do proactively. Some of the things that I was trying to do were like kind of languishing. I'd set up stuff for years and kept trying. And I was like, I got to keep plugging away. I can't just try to keep pushing the same things up the hill. And I was really taken with Fury Road. And how it was an action movie where the story was told primarily through action, and wanted to do that without the cars, and thought about maybe a survival tale, like Gravity or The Revenant, but was trying to figure out if there could be a more unique protagonist, something we had not seen before, and that's what led me to Comanche. And I had always loved the idea of period and sci-fi coming together. It's something that we rarely see, and that's when I had the thought of, oh, the Predator is coming to look for the most worthy, and I'm already thinking about this movie where someone's trying to prove themselves as worthy, and what the Predator comes and doesn't even see her as a threat. Then all of a sudden that made my Comanche proving themselves movie better. And it made the Predator movie better. and it was a movie that had never been, so I pitched it to my reps, and they said, unfortunately, Shane Black's doing a Predator movie right now. So maybe just come up with, like, maybe it's not the Predator, maybe it's your own thing. And I was like, yeah, but it's so cool that it is the Predator. So I emailed an exec at 20th, and at the bottom of I pitched them the whole thing, that, as I just said to you guys, and at the bottom of the pitch, I said, I know you guys are doing the Shane Black movie, so why don't we just call this movie Prey? Because at the time, Rogue One and Solo were all doing the, like, a Star Wars story, so it wasn't treading on the trilogy. And that was kind of that. They bought that, and we're down to get it going, despite the Shane movie. And then we got to a point where they were very close to that movie coming out, so they kind of put pause on us. And then the Fox Disney merger happened, and that was the end. And it wasn't until a few years later that someone dusted off the shelves and saw what was inside the filing cabinet, and our script was there. And but all of that is kind of to say that I wasn't thinking about, I like Predator, what would I do? And I think I know a franchise that could use some revitalization. Here's how you'd revitalize. I was just thinking of a movie that I care about, that doesn't exist, and that's what concocted Prey. And I just tried to do that again and again, instead of thinking of what can happen after Prey now. I was thinking about, no, what's a Predator movie that doesn't exist? What's a movie? What's a sci-fi movie that doesn't exist?
Yeah, and I think you're also answering so many desires of hardcore Predator fans for decades. So many of, like, we have always wanted to, I think, see Predators in other eras, other periods, other cultures. And I think with your 3 Predator movies, that's why they're so adored and people really love them. And I think that's one of the things that, like, you accidentally tapped into, which I'm sure you were aware of and probably felt the same feelings, even though you weren't going in the direction, I want to make a Predator movie. It turned into a Predator movie, but answering the fans' prayers for years of, like, let's do something new and original. We love the originals. You know, the first one with Arnold's iconic. The second one's really solid. We're in a different city, but let's get into really unique cultures with the ultimate warriors of all time.
Yeah, I mean, it especially Killer of Killers became like, this is such a fun thing. But I didn't want it to just be Prey in another time period. And that's where the anthology concept, the animated, was like, oh my God, we can express ourselves in such a unique way. And I loved the idea of making a movie that you assumed was an anthology and turned out to actually be one story. Yet again, a movie that we never really, I mean, Pulp Fiction is a little bit that, but
Yeah.
but still quite unique for how we pulled it off.
Would you just a fun little question here? Would you be open to bringing Dutch back into this franchise as a possibility? Arnold Schwarzenegger returning, his big cigar, his guns. Is that something that could be fun to play around with?
So we have him. It wasn't there upon release, but we were able to squeeze in a little bit after, and we mentioned this when we went to Comic-Con. But we have this ending on Killer of Killers that reveals that Dutch is Dutch and Mike Harrigan, Danny Glover's character for Predator 2, and Nadu, of course, are on ice. And to me, that does open the door for more stories, whether they be the tale of how they ended up there, or the tale of what happens when they're thawed out. But I do think now there's possibility where there wasn't before.
And we were talking about this before you hopped in on the call, that there's 2 Arnold Schwarzenegger past properties coming out literally a week apart. So cool. And then next year it's going to be Sylvester Stallone with I Play Rocky, and then the Rambo prequel, like 2 of his IPs. So it's really interesting that these great action stars that we all loved growing up and from the past are still kind of like getting remade today.
Timeless.
Sort of.
They're timeless.
Sly's more of a remake because those are literally about him, his characters. But no, it's really cool, and I mean, we're so impressed, and you're such a big inspiration to us, man. Like to see where you've gone with your career and how you're doing it right now. It's just, I mean, we're such a big fan. We really appreciated you coming on our show today, and we're gonna do a full breakdown of Badlands on Tuesday. Would you like to say something for that episode for the fans? We can pop it into that review because this is gonna post tomorrow, and it comes out this weekend. But on Tuesday, we're gonna have a full breakdown. If you want to say something to the fans in that episode.
Well, here's what I'll say, since you guys are about to you can now look for it. But there is, if you look closely, you can see Nadu in the movie in Badlands, and you can also see the backbiter, the creature that from the end of Killer of Killers, somewhere in Badlands. And thank you guys for having me on. I found you guys on my own just through the YouTube algorithm, and immediately sometimes you go past, but you guys, I just felt there was some kinship there, and so high fives to all your older brothers, and thanks for watching stuff that I've been making too.
Appreciate it,
All
man.
right, Dan, we appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining the show.
Awesome. All right, guys,
Thanks.
take care.